Councilwoman Seaman here, and I'm so glad to be back live with Chief Freeman. And today we're going to talk about a very important issue, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which was yesterday. And you know, this is really an important subject to talk about because we hear about so much abuse to our elderly because they're more vulnerable than the rest of the population. So I would like you to tell us how we can help to prevent this, or family members can. So I'm so glad you joined us so you can talk about it.
So as always, thank you so much for having me here, Councilwoman Seaman. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. Elderly abuse, just like all abuse, is something that is a crime. And so it's really important that we do not allow this to happen if we see or feel like it's happening. Some of the signs and symptoms could be, if you're not the primary caregiver, for instance, and you're a family member, you might see something unusual. You might see different behaviors of your loved ones, a neighbor, a friend, where you go and you see that they're doing something different than they normally would. That would be one sign. Another sign could be if they look malnutrition. If they don't look like they're eating the way that they used to, that could be a sign. If they look like, or if they actually are.
And what about bruises or
Yes.
those type of things? Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you see any kind of bruising, it's very important to immediately talk to them and also report it if you need to. Now, one of the things that you may not be able to see right away are bruises somewhere else.
Right.
And so some of the other things could help you then get to the awareness of maybe there's some kind of abuse going on. For instance, one of the things that's very peculiar that people wouldn't even realize sometimes is that if somebody else is a caregiver and they're in their own home, they might actually have the refrigerator door locked. They might have an external door locked. I wouldn't even have
thought about that. That's very interesting.
So if you see something that's unusual and that just doesn't sit right, it's really smart to ask questions.
Ask questions and report it. And you know, the other thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, because there's so many scams going on, especially a lot of folks are at home, a lot of folks aren't working, and there's scams going on. And again, our most vulnerable population are the ones that are the targets. And so tell us about some of those scams and kind of have some warnings out there for folks so that not just for the elderly, but their family members, so that they can discuss it with their relatives.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up, because this is another really difficult topic, and there are a lot of scams, and people do focus in sometimes on the elderly, more so than others. So things like this. If someone communicates with you, like let's say they call you on your phone and they start asking for personal information, do not ever give out personal information unless you are certain that the other person on the other end of the phone is your family member or someone you trust. But do not typically answer any of those questions. You don't want to ever say what your birth date is or your social security number or your bank information. That's really dangerous. It's always okay to check, even if you think it's someone you think is legitimate, and then just hang up and then you call them back. Ask for a callback number, ask somebody that you know that can help you out, a friend or family member, that's helpful. But there are scams even with the government, and they'll ask you and tell you that you've been breached and ask you for information. Don't ever give that out.
Yeah, what was that latest one about this? You know, we're from the Social Security office, and I guess that was such a big scam that the federal government put something out warning against it. So it's really important to tell these folks that anyone can say they're someone they're not, even our federal government. So
100%, and you can even get phone numbers from a line that you think is a correct phone number, and it actually not be the person you think it is. Absolutely. Somebody can call you from a number you recognize and not be the actual number. So it's very important to be very careful. Another thing would be the internet. Don't just hop on and take, a window comes up and people are like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe hand sanitizer nowadays, because everyone's looking for hand sanitizer. If something comes up, if you're not searching for it, don't allow it to search for you. So I would say be really careful there, and be careful too with people coming up to you, whether you're in a store and offering you or telling you that they're in trouble and that they need a little bit of help, and can they have your bank information, or whether you have a knock at your door and they say you just won some money, or that they're going to help you because they heard of something. don't look at all of that as suspicious behavior.
So if something's too good to be true, it
Mhm.
probably is. Well, I am so grateful that you are back here with me live, and folks, we'll be back in a couple weeks to do a new segment on something else. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and help everybody out there. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Bye,
Bye-bye now.
everybody.